On January 1st, 2005, I moved to Hollywood to make it big as a comedian. I decided I need to move there when I was in 5th grade, and I realized if Amanda Bynes had her own show on Nickelodeon, I could too. I was way funnier. I had grown up a notorious class clown in my neighborhood in Carlsbad, and by the time high school rolled around, I was voted most likely to be on Saturday Night Live. Throughout the years, my parents always supported me doing comedy. They laughed at all my jokes, sat through all my shows, and encouraged me to move to LA to pursue my dreams. Everyone in town knew that Dale and Linda's daughter, Laura, was going to be a famous Hollywood comedian. Now I was 20 years old and ready to make the move along with my best friend, Jillian. Jillian and I grew up having Jim Carrey and Mike Myers movie nights. She understood my love of comedy, and I couldn't leave her behind. She was attending school at Cal State Northridge, and we found an apartment in Studio City. My parents chaperoned the move up there, their sentiment being, I can't believe our baby is leaving home. My sentiment being, fuck home, Hollywood is where Laura Condi is supposed to be. We were met at my apartment by my new boyfriend, Justin. Justin was an animator, already living in LA. He was nerdy, and we recently met off MySpace, if that gives you any indication of what year this was. After getting all moved in, my parents said their goodbyes, and I cuddled up with Justin in my new place as Jillian ordered Chinese food. This was my new home. A couple days later, while looking on the website of the infamous Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, I discovered an open improv jam down the street from me on January 4th. I read the show description. Open improv jam. That meant anyone could go up on stage, and the Upright Citizens Brigade, a group of sketch comedians that I idolized, could be watching. The UCB Theater was the place to be. There were rumors that talent scouts would show up there nightly to see Hollywood's funniest performers. I had to go. The wheels were set in motion. This was my first step towards seeing my name in lights. So January 4th, 2005 was pretty much going to be my big break until this happened. That night, I was hanging out at Justin's apartment when I started to feel nauseous. After 1 or 2 trips to the bathroom didn't produce any pain relief, I started getting sharp pains in my lower abdomen. I kept quiet about my discomfort because Justin was playing video games and I wouldn't get his attention anyway. But 2 hours later, curled up in the fetal position on his bathroom floor, I told Justin I thought I should go to the hospital. I called Jillian to meet us there, and Justin minimized his game of World of Warcraft long enough to maximize directions to the hospital. So this was my first trip back to a hospital after being born. I had made it 20 years without incident, and here I was in the waiting room of the Encino Urgent Care trying to puke into a blue cup the staff gave me. Jillian did her best impression of my mom, filling out all my forms, getting me in a room and hooked up on morphine, and Justin did his best impression of a caring boyfriend sitting by my hospital bed when I'm sure the only thing he cared about was leveling up to a dungeon keeper or dragon slayer in his dumbass video games. About an hour later, when I should have been on stage being discovered as a funnier version of Amanda Bynes by Hollywood talent scouts, the doctors started tests on me. To me, those tests were more excruciating than my SATs. I was ultrasounded, x-rayed, and MRI'd. I was asked to hold my breath and describe the pain. I was still trying to puke into that blue cup, by the way. I was wheeled up and down hallways and in and out of a million different rooms. And last but not least, the most glamorous Hollywood treatment of all, a rubber hose was stuck up my butt, filled my anus with water, and monitored for reactions. At around 4 a.m., exhausted from tests, the doctors finally gave me the diagnosis, appendicitis, and I would need to go into surgery in a couple minutes before my appendix burst. By this time, Jillian had called my parents, and they were on their way from San Diego, but they probably wouldn't make it in time to see me before the surgery. My parents had always been there, but now they were 3 hours away and couldn't make it in time. In the hour before my surgery, Jillian and Justin, exhausted, fell asleep. I stayed awake, becoming slightly terrified of my first major operation. I started thinking, what if something goes wrong? What if I don't wake up? And most importantly, what if I don't get my big Hollywood career? Shortly after, a big black nurse with a raspy voice named Claire alerted us that the surgeon was almost ready and I was going to be taken down to the operating room. At this point in the night, Justin thought it would be fun to take a picture of me on his camera phone to, look back later on, laugh at, like any good comedian would. Click, he showed it to me. We all had a good laugh, until I got quiet and a thought crossed my mind. What if this is the last picture anyone ever sees of me? Moments later, it was showtime, and Justin held my hand as I was wheeled down to the surgery center. I'm sure Claire was unfazed by the situation as she pushed my hospital bed down the hall. She had seen this sort of thing all before, my teeth chattering in fear, clutching my boyfriend's hand, refusing to let go. She probably had no qualms with telling Justin that this was the end of the line and to say goodbye. He stared at Claire, unsure what to do. Claire stared back at him, batting her ferocious eyelashes as if to say, "Get moving, boy!" He kissed me, said good luck, and left. Outside the operating room, Claire gave me a waiver to sign. I was too scared to read it, and I pretty much failed my SATs, so it's not like I could understand it anyway. But if I had to guess, it probably said something along the lines of this. So us doctors are going to make you go dead for a little bit, then cut you open and reach inside and take something out, and then make you alive again. But if we don't make you alive again, then whoopsies, sign here. I felt like I had autographed my death certificate. As I was brought into the operating room, I started thinking about the past 4 days. My new apartment with Jillian, cuddling with my new boyfriend, Justin, my new life doing comedy in LA. I started thinking about my whole life before that and how I had always felt destined to be here in Hollywood. And this is where I had ended up, on an operating table. I thought about my parents back home. And even if I was too old for it, I wished my mom was there to just pat my hand and tell me I was going to be okay. As the nurses hooked me up to the anesthesia, I started to feel incredibly alone, and a couple tears began to roll down my face. I started to fall asleep, and I remember the last two thoughts I had before the anesthesia knocked me out. The first was, oh my God, I feel so far from home. And the second was, oh my God, these doctors are going to see my pubes. And I was out. Little did I know that standard appendectomies occur right above the pubic area, an area I hadn't shaved in 4 days because I was busy moving to LA to try and become a star. And it didn't occur to me that a surgeon was going to see my bush until mere moments before I was operated on. Hours later, I woke up in the recovery room, surrounded by my mom, dad, Jillian, and Justin. I was perfectly fine. Everything went okay, and everyone was there by my side. It took them a while to leave, but when they did, I looked under my hospital gown, and below 2 surgical staples holding my abdomen together was a nice little shave job over my vagina. Compliments of the Encino surgical staff. Welcome to Hollywood, Laura.
Laura Condi, everybody.